Here we go. How to count chunks. You can overlap this in the Bastion with trades if you are fast. I will say more about that later. Basically, how to count chunks. Scan like normal. Just remember the number 14 chunks. Let me check. Positive Z. Okay. The fort is in the positive Z direction. 14 chunks in the positive Z direction. Now, bear in mind that when I did that scan, I moved one chunk in positive Z. So the number we're going to use is 13. My current Z coords is 21. 21 plus 13 is 34. So we expect the spawner to be in Z34. Now, it can be pretty much anywhere in the X direction. So don't get concerned, don't get confused if it's not right here in a straight line in Z34. It could be pretty damn far in the X direction sometimes. So anywhere along this X-axis, but the spawner will be in Z34. See, here it is in 634. All right. All right, let's try again. Another example. $13, 4, 3. Okay, 12 chunks. Remember that number. Let's check negative Z. No. Let's check positive X. Yes. Okay, 12 chunks in positive X. Now, bear in mind that to perform the scan, I already moved one chunk in positive X, so the number we'll use is 11. I'm currently in X26. 26 plus 11 is 37. So I'm looking for this spawner somewhere in X37. Now remember, it can be anywhere along the X-axis. So don't be alarmed if it's not in a directly straight line, but it will be in X37. So practical uses of this. Say I show up in this fort and I land in this fort and I'm here. And I know the spawner has to be in X37. So I'm going to be looking somewhere along this line. Obviously, I'm not going to dig in a straight wall along this line. That's kind of stupid. But I know if I go here and say I take a left here, I'm now in 39. So I have to backtrack a little bit if I want to find this spawner. So I know the spawner is somewhere this way. And here it is, 37. It's pretty useful. I recommend trying it out in a few practice sessions, a few Bastion MPKs, giving it a go. So for the technical explanation, how this works, I kind of said it already when I was scanning, but pretend I am in, pretend I'm in, say, this chunk, and I scan the fort as being, like, say, 5 chunks in positive X from here. When I'm here, and I scan 5 chunks in positive X, that means it's going to be 4 more chunks in this direction. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to be here. Oh, we didn't do an example yet where I had to increase render distance. It's the same. It's the exact same, even if you have to increase render distance. So let's try and find an example of that quickly. $16 chunks. All right, let's check negative X. No. Let's check negative Z. Yes. Okay, so we want an example where we have to increase render distance. So I'll just try scanning the other way. 15 chunks. Is that right? No. 16. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, 16 chunks. Let's check positive X. No. Let's check. Wait. Sorry. That's stupid. Okay, 16 chunks. Let's check positive Z. No. Let's check positive X. No. Increased by 1. 17 chunks. That's your new number that you're remembering. 17 chunks. Check negative X. No. Check negative Z. Yes. 17 chunks in the negative Z direction because you're using that new number. You increased by 1 while you were scanning. This is your new number here. Now, bear in mind, I just moved 1 chunk in negative Z when I was scanning. So the number I'm using is going to be 16. 16 chunks in the negative Z direction. 11 minus 16 is negative 5. So it should be right there in Z equals negative 5. Let's check that out. Negative 5. Here we go. Nice little perky spawner in Z equals negative 5. Now here's the thing. If I were entering this fort, say, from here, this spawner would be closer to me. This would be a better spawner. It's not in the right chunk. It's not in the chunk I counted. I scanned this spawner over here. It was closer to me. However, you obviously want to go for this spawner. So this is one of the common pitfalls when using the chunk counting approach, is kind of getting tunnel vision. You're like, oh, I got to go to negative 5. I got to go to negative 5. I got to go to negative 5. So you're going all around this, say you're checking out over here because you're convinced the spawner is in negative 5. But in reality, the other spawner was a lot closer to you. So just be careful not to get tunnel vision because that can be bad for you if you tunnel in on the negative 5 spawner when the negative 6 spawner was closer to you. Now, if you want to use the negative 6 spawner and then you're like, well, I know there's another spawner in negative 5, so you play double spawner and you're a little faster, sure, go for it. But just be careful because sometimes the second spawner, it's very, very far away. It's like all the way over here. Even though it was technically closer to you when you were scanning, it is not closer to the place where you entered the fort. So you got to be careful about that. Additionally, another pitfall of this approach is very similar to the tunnel vision pitfall I just described. Sometimes there are 2 forts. So sometimes there's a spawner you scan and it's for a fort that's, say, 20 chunks in the X direction, and you're looking for Z negative 5, but you scanned this fort all the way over here and it wasn't the closer fort. If both forts are in your render distance, you'll always scan the closer spawner. So even if the closer spawner in the, say, X direction isn't in your fort, you still scan it. So this might be the closer fort in the X direction, but the other spawner was fewer chunks away from you, so you scan that instead. So just be mindful of that. The strategy isn't perfect, although when it hits, and it hits very frequently, it hits very, very often. When it hits, it is very useful. So how to do this in real life? Same way that you scan for the fort in real life. I am not going to demonstrate because I am a sub 15 runner, and if you see my bastion split, you're gonna laugh, and I don't want that, so you don't need to see that. But you overlap it the exact same way, obviously not with the treasure bastion, but you overlap it the same way that you overlap scanning. Oh, this isn't even a treasure. See, what did I say? Sub 15 runner. So say you're down here in the gap, you're scanning, you just remember the number that you scanned. So like if I scanned 25 in the X direction, all you have to do is say to yourself, okay, I'm 25 in the X direction from X3. And then later, when you have free time in your brain to think about something, that's when you do the math. Or at least that's the way I do it. Like maybe when I'm crafting my beds or something, I'll do the math. So you scan, you say, all right, I'm 24 in the X direction from -3. And then later when I'm doing, I'm 24 in positive X from -3. Later when you're crafting, you can do 24 minus 3 to get your chunk number. I hope that makes sense. Feel free to at me if you have any questions. this is a really, really useful strat, and I feel like more people should be using it, especially people who are a lot better at math than I am. I feel like could leverage this strategy and should be leveraging this strategy.